Hi, everyone. Welcome to our latest UTR All Access series powered by Oracle. You can see everyone starting to slowly roll in. Get comfortable. We have a very exciting guest today. She brings more energy than any other player I've maybe ever seen. So it should be wonderful for you guys. Hi, Nachi Gulati. How you doing? Where's everyone coming in from? Ricardo coming in from Mexico. Hi, Ricardo. Thanks for joining. Again, repeat audience member. Very nice. Kelly Day from Boston. Hope the weather is nice over there. Austin and Irvine. What's going on? Hello, California guy. Darren, Rocky Springs. We got Hawaii in the house. Very nice. I'm glad all you guys are joining. So far, this All Access series has been tremendous. Comments have been great. We've had Sam Query, Allison Risk. That was a special episode. Nick Bolletary dropped some tremendous knowledge. Dennis Sangren, Dr. Jim Lair, Gordon Euling, Vasek Pospisil, the great Yvonne Lendl, Jez Green, Steve Johnson was just on in the most recent one. And in case you missed it, you can watch all of these on demand, myutr.com. Just a little intro for anyone who's not familiar with me. My name is Prakash Amritraj. I played on the ATP Tour for about 10 years, played my college tennis at USC before that. I'm one of the faces for Tennis Channel now, so you can catch me on there quite a bit. I'll be coming up again on Tennis Channel the weeks of May 11th and May 18th, still bringing you guys fresh programming. I know it's been difficult without all this live tennis being taken away, but doing the best we can over at TC. So we're getting pretty close to introducing our very special guest today, but just before we tee her up and while everyone's getting settled in, let's take a short look at a video on how UTR powered by Oracle is really changing the game of tennis.
There is a movement building in tennis, a groundswell that is changing the game, redefining who we play, how we play, and bringing fun to the sport in a whole new way. It isn't about who you are, where you come from, or your age or gender. It's about passion and love of the sport, about the will to improve, about community, competition, fun, and friendship. In local communities all around the world, this movement is creating new opportunities that make tennis, well, universal, equal, open, inviting. This is Universal Tennis. Want to join us?
And there you have it, changing the game globally. So a big official welcome to the UTR Powered by Oracle All Access series, a free opportunity to connect and learn from some of the biggest names in tennis. Now to all of the coaches out there watching, please stay tuned because UTR has a new virtual events initiative coming soon for any coach anywhere to be able to create and host your own virtual events. Now they can be free or paid with all of the proceeds going to the coaches. So go to myutr.com, you can sign up for free. UTR will get you set up ASAP. And stay tuned, we continue our All Access series. Coming up on the next one on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific will be the current Australian Open doubles champion, one half of that team, a dear, dear friend of mine for well over 2 decades, Rajiv Ram. So you won't want to miss that. Now, if I go into the accolades of the guest I'm about to bring up, I think we would be here for quite some time, but I think I'm just going to hit the highlights, which is, I believe, an 8-time Grand Slam champion and Olympic gold medalist. 9-time Grand Slam champion. You can see all out detailed here. Started back in 2012 with her first Grand Slam title, coming in mixed doubles. Parlayed that into quite a few. 2015 was a massive year, taking the women's doubles at both the French Open and the Australian Open. Mixed doubles title at the French as well. Big couple weeks in Paris there. Followed that up with another slam, US Open 2016. And again, continued on Australian, French. She's won everything, boys and girls. most recently with the mixed doubles at the US Open in 2019. Very special, her last slams, especially coming back from a very, very serious injury, which I know we'll get into. So can I please introduce a friend since I guess we were about, I don't know, 13 years old, Miss Bethanie Mattek-Sands.
Buddy.
How you doing, man?
We have known each other that long, haven't we?
Isn't
Damn.
that wild? Now, you're younger than me. We don't need to go into how old I am on here, but it's been
right.
it's been quite
I'm
some
young,
time.
So it's okay. You can
You
be
are,
young too.
and you look even younger too, which we'll get into too, because I think people need to know how to continue to stay young over such a long career. But first, let me just ask you, how are you doing? It's such a crazy time right now.
Pretty wild. Obviously, everyone knows about all the cancellations that have happened, and it's really unprecedented times. There's nothing in the ATP, WTA, ITF rule books that says this is what we do and here's plan B. So we're all kind of in limbo right now. I'm living in Phoenix, Arizona right now, so I'm lucky to be in a place that has great weather. I can still continue my training. I have a gym set up in my garage, and I have access to a couple private courts where I'm the only one practicing there. So I've been able to continue my training, but at the same time, there's got to be a little balance, because I don't know when my next competition is. How hard do you train? How many days in a row do you go? There's no reason to tire myself out now when I might not even be competing till the end of this year. So, there's a lot of questions, I think, but for me, a big part of it has been having some daily structure, whether it's my training, whether it's my practices, whether it's fun. I mean, just simple things like timing up your meals and things like that give you a little bit of your sanity back. And that's what I feel like I've been able to do. I've been staying inside. I have Jen with me, my husband, and I have Tori, actually my hitting partner, who is supposed to be traveling with me in Wells, Miami, Charleston. So I'm lucky I got quarantined with like 2 chefs. One of them can play tennis with me. I have my dog. So, I'm really learning to kind of appreciate the little things. Like for tennis players, we are used to being on the road nonstop. And it's kind of nice to be home. I mean, obviously we'd all be working, but what do we miss about being home when we're on the road? And that's what I'm trying to look at. That's what I'm trying to enjoy. I think it's an amazing time to do a reset personally, career-wise, relationships. I mean, really, I've kept myself quite busy. I'm not going to lie. I've been reorganizing my house to evaluating how I'm playing. I've been watching, from watching myself on video to am I making any changes in my fitness training? How am I feeling? Like, this is one of the first times, I'll be honest, in my career that I've had downtime. And I felt physically really good. So I'm taking this as a big opportunity to build on that.
B, you're like one of the most positive people I know out there. And you're always able to, look at any kind of situation and find the positives in it. I know a lot of people that are struggling with being depressed at this time, but you've literally pointed out, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity in this time. So I think that's something I'd really like to touch upon as we look at your journey. Taking it back first, where did you grow up playing your tennis? How did the sport come to you?
So I was born in Rochester, Minnesota, and that is where I got started. Actually, my dad was the one who took me out to some public courts next to the house. And when I was 5 years old and just started to feed me balls, he kind of picked up on the fact that I was a pretty good athlete when I was younger. But one of the things that I really appreciate about my parents, especially in the early part of my career, was that they had me play multiple sports until I was about 12, 13. I was playing soccer, I was playing basketball, I was playing volleyball. I mean, tennis really wasn't taking up the majority of my time when I was really young. And at one point I started winning some local tournaments. We ended up moving to Wisconsin, which is where my dad's family is from. And that's why I'm a Packer fan and not a Vikings fan. But, it wasn't until the move down to Florida when I went to Everett Tennis Academy is when I started focusing more on tennis. But I appreciate that I was able to play all these other sports and sort of find my athleticism. And I think you'll see that when you watch me play. Like, I like to move around. I like to be aggressive. And I feel like I got that from playing a lot of other sports. So that's one of the things that I appreciate about my parents sort of deciding where I'm going in the early part of my career. But once I hit 12 and 13, I was down in Boca Raton, Florida. I stood out the first time. I remember going down there my first summer to Florida, right? I'm coming from Wisconsin, come from Minnesota, playing after school, maybe a couple hours in the summer. I go to Everett's, and I go in the summer. I'm going for summer camp, and it's 1,000 degrees, 100% humidity. I'm playing 6 hours a day. I remember being in the gym. I think this is towards the end of the week. I'd gone 5 days in a row. And I think I started crying and saying, like, I don't know if I can do this. But no, I mean, I found my inner strength. And, I know we're going to get into this a little bit, but tennis has really given me a lot. Like, I've discovered a lot about myself over the years. There's been ups, there's been downs. But one of the biggest takeaways that I can give is that you have a choice in your attitude. You have a choice in how you look at things. And, I've put it out there. So just to even put myself, on the line and saying, like, that if I'm going to talk the talk, I got to walk the walk as well. But it's possible. I know you mentioned, you think I'm one of the most positive people, like anyone can be. It's really, it's building a habit. Like it's taken me a while to be this way. And if you would have known me, I mean, you did know me a while ago, but you maybe didn't see me after some of my losses. I was pretty good at hiding it, but I was actually a pretty bad loser. Like, I had bad energy. I wasn't positive. I beat myself up a lot, and it was very internal. And, I come a long way from there. And that's why the energy you do see from me now is something that I learned and something that I've practiced. And ultimately it's become my personality, and that's how I play. That's the Bethanie you see on the court now.
Well, I'm hoping a lot of people can gain a lot from that, because you obviously had to go through the bumps and bruises to eventually develop and become this way. But, hopefully a lot of the youngsters out there can, start trying to get that way earlier. Bethanie, you have a little bit of a different sort of early junior career compared to a lot of the people we've talked to. A lot of them developed at a later stage. You kind of at, 12, 13, 14 were like a superstar. You were always playing above your age group, and you were just excelling at such a young age. What was that like for you then? Was it difficult? Were you just kind of, doing what you were told? How was that going?
Well, I wasn't super popular among like the 18-year-olds that I was beating when I was 12 years old. So I wasn't making friends. That's for sure. But that's okay. I believe it or not, I was actually really shy when I was younger. So I know it's hard to believe, but true story. And you know what? Looking back on my junior career, which I haven't in a long time, I'm not going to lie, I had some great results when I was younger. I won the tournament in Tarbes, France when I was 14. I won singles and doubles there, and that was kind of what catapulted the decision to turn pro. And I turned pro when I was really young. I turned pro at 14. And I think, the generation that I grew up in, it was the Jennifer Capriati's, the Martina Hingises, and you had all these players that were really young turning pro. And I think, part of it was like, do you seize the opportunity and continue to the next step? And that, that's the decision my parents and I and my coaches had to make. And, looking back, I would have loved to sort of play a little bit more international events. There was a level that I skipped a little bit, and I think it slowed my progress in the pros down a bit. And I'm not saying I regret any decisions, but I think if I were giving advice to coaches and parents and juniors, I think it's worth it to sort of play in your age group as well. As much as I was, dominating when I was 12, I was playing 18s in Wisconsin or even in Florida. The next level is, can I win a junior Grand Slam? Can I, how do I feel playing against my peers? I think too many times you have these really talented kids that are always used to playing older kids. And then all of a sudden when they play someone their own age or gassed younger, like what, it's like, it's not about the tennis then, it's not about the skill set. Now we're going into the mental and emotional realm of that. So I really think it's worth to find a balance of playing up age groups, playing kids that are younger than you, actually playing kids that are worse than you. Like, how do you beat them? How do you close out sets? Like, it's not just about playing kids that are better than you. I want I want players to go through all the emotions. That's how you're going to find yourself as a tennis player. At this point in my career, almost everyone is younger than me, you know, and, you know, when I walk into a Open or a French Open that I've won before, I have that in the back of my mind. Like, so for me, if I'm playing a tough match second, what pressure am I feeling there? Like I've built expectations. So I think so much more to junior tennis that we can get out of it. I think managing expectations, learning about losses, playing peers, playing friends, playing people that will crush you. Like they're all, it's so much more than the result, and it's so much more than the skill set. That's what you're going to learn throughout your years as a junior. You're going to refine your grips and your game style and your movement patterns and all of that. But how are you mentally and emotionally developing through all that? And this thing that I could say to that is put yourself in the most amount of positions as possible. And then that's where I feel like if I could go back, do it again, I would probably play a few more tournaments, and I would play a few more years of juniors.
Bethany, starting so early there, it's interesting to hear you say that. I completely agree. Learning to deal with all those different kind of pressures, it helps you develop for sure. Talk about off the court. I mean, the last time you were just a plain kid without these kind of responsibilities was when you were 13, I guess. So were you ever, you know what, I just want to be a normal kid, or did you love it so much?
No, you know what? 100%. Look, I love tennis and I knew I was pretty good. And there were times where, yeah, I just wanted to be a normal kid. And I think and that's where the role of the coach and the parent, I think, is so important. It's so crucial to help a kid maintain that balance. It's really not on them. When they're 12, 13, 14, they're going by what you're saying. So how you react to their losses, their wins, the pressures, the expectations, they're reading a lot from you. And I think it's worth it. As much as you want them to handle things a certain way, there's a lot of work that I want to see parents putting into themselves and how they communicate and how what role they're playing. Do you want to be the coach or do you want to be a parent? Like, if you're going to be both, you have to find a balance. And I think that's where I see a lot of juniors struggling to sort of take it to the next step because they don't enjoy it any longer. Like, I grew up with a lot of great players. Like, I had a lot of Americans next to me that competed well with me. And it wasn't just injury that took them out. They started not liking tennis. They started not liking the sport. Look, guys, parents, coaches, like tennis isn't already an individual sport. It's and doubles court. Yeah, you have a buddy, you play with a friend. I think it's great. It's one of the biggest reasons why I think everyone should play doubles. It's much more social. There's a different interaction. You have someone going through everything with you. I think it's great to build both singles and double skills. But singles, you're out there by yourself. I mean, are kids getting stronger because of this? Yes. Are they getting some of these deep emotions that they don't know how to deal with as well? They are. And I can tell you from my experience that feeling those pressures as a kid and as a shy kid, I didn't almost feel comfortable telling my coaches about it because I know what the expectations were. So for me to be like, hey, I'm kind of worried about this, it seemed irrelevant to talk about that. And so I just didn't. So I kept a lot of bottled up. And that's why when I talk about becoming a better loser, it took me years like to figure that out. And I'm proud of it. Like, I'm proud of digging into my own sort of personal journey and figuring out at what point I shifted, at what point I needed to change my habits. Yep. But I think if parents want to get a jump start on it, and coaches, they really can. And it really comes down to balance. Like, these kids, as talented, as successful, as much potential as you think they have, they are still kids. They are still people. And it's so important for the longevity, for your relationships. I mean, all these things are so key in the next steps. And again, if we're talking about someone who's 10, 11, 12, you still have years to go before you're potentially playing professional tennis. Like, you got to love it for a long time. Otherwise, it will break you. Like, you get into the pro circuit, and Prakash, it's a grind. Like, you're going from January to November. If you don't have some good results, like, you're just going week to week. Sometimes you're playing tournaments in places you really don't want to be at. Nobody's there with you. You don't have a coach. So how are you handling all these? And there's too many times where I see that emotional side and that mental side being the reason why players stop playing tennis. Tennis is an amazing game. Anyone can play at any level, from when you're a kid to when you're way as an adult. And I think having that balance and starting it as a kid is super important.
That's beautiful. You see that great ad where they talk about tennis as a sport for a lifetime. So the way you're talking about it, parents should really look at that lifetime development. Even when it's they're a kid. That's a beautiful lesson. I hope everyone 100%. Out there is taking notes.
100%. You guys better be listening to me here. I'm expecting some questions about this. This is important. Listen, I'm dead serious. Like, I talk a lot about strategy, about how I prepare for matches, but this is really an important topic. It's a big issue, and it's something that goes beyond tennis. Really, it goes beyond. These are life skills we're taking into, and at the end of the day, if you can create this balance, the tennis player, that side of your child, of the kid, is going to come out, and you're going to maximize that potential. So I think it's such an important topic.
I completely agree. Shifting back to on court, you're maybe one of the handful of players over the last 15 years who I think has shown such, great skill level and, quite frankly, passion too in singles and doubles. Is that something that started young and you just never let it go? It was always important to you to develop both?
Well, it's funny because when I think about how I learned tennis when I was really young, the first stroke that I learned were my volleys. So, and if I look at video of me when I was a kid, that's probably the one stroke that I've never changed my entire career. I've had pretty much the same forehand. Obviously, when I was little, I kind of had more of a two-handed backhand volley, but actually I still pull that out. I'm pretty sure I pulled a two-handed backhand volley out a few times in the finals in my US Open just now. But it's, I think the on-court, there's just so many ways like we can take this. And I just think, the development at a young age, technically it is important, but I think it's more important to kind of let everyone be themselves, let their personalities shine. And for me, volleys, going to net, playing aggressive, it came really naturally. That's like how I wanted to play as a 7-year-old. I remember a couple of coaches trying to coach me. Actually, I'm going to talk about Chrissy Everett. Chrissy would give me a hard time. She's like, Bethany, like, you got to hit a few more balls cross court. And I was like, but I really like going down the line and coming to the net. And, whatever. I found some balance. I appreciate my cross court rallies now. But, part of my passion came from sticking to the game that I started with and that I felt was mine. And I think that's so important to figure out what a kid, what a player, how they like to play, how they like to move, what's their mentality. Because the more natural they can stay, the better they're going to perform under pressure, because it's natural to them. They're not forcing anything. And so for me, playing singles and doubles was pretty easy. I played a lot of doubles when I was younger, and I'm really glad I did. I think that's probably one of the main social events that I had, just because I was pretty shy. But when you're playing doubles, you're talking with it, you're figuring it out with another partner. And I think even in juniors, I know it's not common to always play with the same player for a lot of tournaments. Like, you're playing with a lot of different players. Sometimes you're playing with someone you don't really know. I think there's so many benefits to playing dubs. You're figuring out different game styles. You're figuring out mentalities. You're talking out loud about strategy. Another big takeaway for me, and if you've watched me play doubles, you know this, is knowing what kind of words and attitude and mentality affect your partner. Too many times there's things things that we would say to ourselves that we would never say to our partner because we know it wouldn't help them. Like we know, that's too mean, or I know she's trying and that wouldn't get her to play better, or that wouldn't get me the end result. So I'm not going to say it that way. And yet here we are inside our own minds beating ourselves up. So I think I've always been a big fan of doubles. Obviously, I have a lot of great results in doubles, but I think they're two different sports. I think there's different strategies in both. I think there's a different communication in both, and I think it's worth playing both from the time you're a junior and into the pros.
I think it'll help everyone out there. If anything, you hear the passion in your voice, you figure out what you love, how you want to play. Not to mention, you can have tremendous success in both. But just focusing on the doubles for a minute, Bethanie, because we don't really get a really chance to dissect it. People talk about singles quite a bit, and doubles is such a, not only is it such a fun game to watch, that's what's played mostly, right? Around all the clubs and, in the States and all around the world. So can I just ask you, at such a high level, what are the main things you think are the key things, a player should focus on, when they're on the doubles court?
When they're on, are we talking about during practice, or do you want to know during the match?
No, let's talk about a skill set. Yeah, as a doubles player.
So, well, here's the thing. I think doubles, it comes down to communication and chemistry. Like there's a reason why I play with a lot of my friends, because we have this open communication. My partner, when I was doing really well with Lucy, we didn't always start out on fire. Like we had a couple first rounds that we had to grind through. We sometimes weren't even the best team out there. I remember playing the finals of US Open. We were down a set and a break, almost all down and out to Garcia Mladenovic, another amazing doubles pair. And I remember sitting down on a changeover with Lucy, and we both kind of looked at each other and we're like, you know what? If we're going to lose this, we're going to go out playing our way. So here's what I'm going to do at net. Here's how you're going to set me up, and let's go do this. We ended up breaking, coming back. And at the end of the day, the other team was actually playing better than us. They were beating us. And the reason we were able to come back is because we came together as a team. There was a communication. There was this trust, this understanding that even through mistakes, ups and downs, like we both know what we're there for. We both can get on track in a second. We both can build each other up. And that, if we're talking about a skill set to have for doubles, I think that's one of the biggest ones. I think you learn a lot about yourself, about those emotions that come out, and then what gets you get that win. Because again, it's not always the best player. The same could be said for singles. Like when you figure out a way to win, like you maybe weren't the best player for the first set and a half, and you figured out a way to win. So I think doubles, you do the same thing. It's communication. And if we're talking a little bit more tennis strategy, I think it's important to test out your movement, to take risks, to take chances, especially when you're a junior. Like I want to see some juniors get burned down the line because they look to poach too early. That's how you're going to figure it out. I like doing volley drills because a lot of times what I hear from kids is they're scared to get hit. Like, look, get your racket in front and let's practice. Let's do some volley drills. Most of the time you'll find you're going to be able to get your racket up in time, or you're going to be able to turn. The ball doesn't hurt that bad. But I think it's sort of testing all the waters out. I want you to play as an aggressive player. I want you to play at net. I want you to serve and volley. How does it feel? How does it set up? Maybe it's not your game, but I want to encourage sort of this curiosity and this willingness to take risks. And I think on the doubles court, you're able to do that a little bit more because you have someone backing you up. I want to see some juniors calling some play calls. I want to say, all right, second serve, I'm going to go cross court. We're going to switch and see what happens. All right, second serve, I'm going down the line. Next ball is coming to you. I'm coming in, and let's see how it works. Like you get to have a partner to kind of work through this with. Take advantage of that. So I think really learning to take some risks and test out different strategies, doubles gives you such a great opportunity to do that.
So I think probably my favorite thing about this chat so far is every time I ask you a question, you're kind of relaying it. So it's a tennis answer, but it's also a life answer. I think you
noticed that, huh?
Well, you put everything together. And by the way, one of my favorite reasons that I follow you on Instagram, so I hope everyone else is doing the same thing. You're able to relate it all. And you know what, quite frankly, sport is a metaphor for life. And, the life lessons you learn, it translates to sport. And what you learn here, hopefully it translates there. So along those terms, I'm going to ask you what I think is maybe one of the best efforts we've seen emotionally and physically in sport in some time at Wimbledon. Not too long ago, you had about as gruesome an injury as you can possibly have. And all of us on the men's side, women's side, we were all just wincing when it happened. You would think that, you know what, that's it. She's never playing the sport again. I know it couldn't have been easy to stay positive. And I mean, look, whether it's a big thing like that or a small thing, we're all going to get knocked down. How did how did you get out of it, and the manner in which you did it?
Well, there's a couple things. I definitely went through an array of emotions. Obviously, in the moment, I didn't know what happened. I just knew something really bad happened, and I wasn't able to walk off the court. So, after that, I had already been on a little bit of this internal personal journey, and it's funny because I had posted something to Instagram a few days before about choosing your attitude no matter what your circumstances were, and I was like, damn it. That like 2 days ago I was like #1 seed at Wimbledon, #1 in the world, gold medalist. Like, it's easy to be positive then, right? So I had to like eat my own word. I had to do a mirror test, be like, Bethany, did you believe what you just said on
Wow.
Instagram, or
Wow.
are you gonna just hide? And so part of the reason why I shared my journey back was a little selfish, because I wanted to own up to how if I was gonna tell people to be positive, I'm damn sure better stick to it. And I think, one of my biggest win, let me tell you, my biggest win, a lot of people think it's coming back, and winning US Open, and the next year. My biggest win was actually the day after it happened. I was still in the hospital, and Lucy came to visit me, and Sean T. I had a few other friends come to the hospital, and we actually did this little choreographed dance to a Beyonce song. Obviously, I couldn't stand, so it was all like hand motions. If you saw Lucy and I win in Australian Open, we did the dance on the court. So now we did a little paraphrased one with our hands. And to me, that was my biggest win of my career and of my life so far, because in that moment, I asked myself, if you weren't injured right now, how would you be interacting with your friends? How would you be interacting with your coach, with Justin, with Lucy, with your partner? And I said, I'd be having a really good time, and I'd be laughing a lot. And I challenged myself to do that despite my circumstances. Well, too many times I think we kind of rely on the fact that, hey, time heals all wounds. And maybe it does, but I challenged myself to take that a step further. If I was going to be okay with it in 6 months, why couldn't I be okay with it in 3 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. So if I could be okay with it in 3 weeks, why couldn't I be okay with it in 2 days? Now, the closer I'm getting, I'm like, no, I kind of want to be mad. I kind of want to be pissed. Right. I'd be justified. Right. Like, no one would have been upset with me if I holed up, or if I was negative, or if you saw me crying, or I didn't want to talk to anyone. Like, I was justified, but that's not who I wanted to be. So I kept going backwards. All right, Bethany, like, if time heals all wounds, you'd be okay in 6 months. You'd probably be okay in 3 weeks. You'd be like, you'd have a better idea. You'd feel a little bit better in a couple days. Can you do it in an hour? Ooh, like now, and I've done the same thing after losses too. Not quite as dramatic, but it's the same thing. Like, all right, how long do you want to be pissed about? Because it's your choice, and it's okay if you want it, then go for it. And I had to like own up, be like, nah, that's a waste of energy. That's not the person I want to be, and in the end, it's not going to get me the results that I want anyways. And maybe this comes from experience. Maybe this comes because I have had some injuries before where I thought it was the end of 2008, left hip surgery. Thought it was the end of my career. This is 2008. This is before I won anything.
Yeah.
And I remember I spent 3 months not talking to anyone, working hard, kind of being mad at my situation. And looking back, I achieved way more post 2008 than I did pre 2008. So what was I stressed about? Did that help me get those results? Definitely not. I got them despite it. So I've made the decision to give myself space for my emotions and my reactions, but then ultimately decide which one I want to choose. And so that little dance that I did after my injury at Wimbledon, I will say to this day, the biggest win of my career.
Huh. So it's as you say on Instagram, it's all absolutely a choice. And I think
Yep.
that's something all the kids out there, and you know what, all the parents, coaches can learn too. We're not victims of circumstance. You can make a choice to be positive, be happy. That's absolutely beautiful. Now, since you talked about that tough time, we gotta just get to the good times after that. When you came back, did you feel did you feel even stronger? I mean, I know there was a physical component, but you had a completely different perspective having gone through that. So how was the Bethanie Mattek after that on the tour? Who won slams compared to the Bethanie Mattek before that, who also won slams?
Well, you know what? It's interesting because I think I went through a phase where I had this really great mentality of enjoying the process through my rehab, through my training. And I noticed once I got back to competition, all of a sudden my expectations went here. And I was like, damn, like that's not even what I've been practicing these last few months, that I've like gradually worked up, been like gone from walking to running to sprinting to practicing 30 minutes to practicing 2 hours to playing points. All of a sudden I get to a match and I'm like, I want to win it all. And I'm not saying that bad, that competitive fire is bad. I'm just saying when you're enjoying the process, you don't lose that competitive fire. Too many times I feel like players opt not to enjoy things or enjoy the process or look at things that way because they're actually scared that they're going to be a little less competitive, that they're not going to care as much. It's like being mad or being upset about losses or things not going our way shows that we care. I'm going to say big BS on that.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be that way. And that was something I worked through when I was younger, because I definitely showed it in that way. So when I got back to playing, I noticed that my expectations all of a sudden went up. And I had to take a moment and say, like, you're still building, Bethanie. Like, this is still like another step in the process. And I'm not saying you can't win. I'm just saying, like, here's where you're at. Here's what happened. What's the next adjustment? So it's still, I definitely had a moment coming back to competition where I got a little frustrated in a sense, and because the expectations went up. But I remember getting my first win in Charleston, my first doubles win, and it was super emotional. I mean, that was, as much as I didn't think it was going to be a big moment, like I was really emotional. I won that first round doubles match, and I remember Justin hugging me at the end. I was crying. And I was like, I actually might cry now. And that was a big step, but it wasn't the only noticeable step. All the little steps that I made to that point meant just as much. I like celebrating each of those steps just as much. I don't think we should just celebrate when we're holding the trophy or when we make the quarterfinals or whatever our big goal was. Like, we got to set these small goals and these small steps and be excited about it. Because if you're on the right path, going to where you want to go, you'll get there. You don't have to keep stressing about it. Like, just stay on the path and enjoy it. And that's one of the things that I think, again, experience helped me when I did come back from that injury. Obviously, I did work my way back up. I ended up winning mixed double US Open with Jamie Murray, and it was massive. And I was able to give a pretty cool speech at the end, talking about choosing happiness and choosing your attitude, because that's really how I was able to get back up there, along with a lot of support from my team. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not me by myself, even though I want to personally empower kids and I want to personally empower adults, because there's so much that we get to decide and that we get to work on. I did have an amazing team that helped me with my energy and was there for me, but it's a balance. Like, if I can say anything, it's really to empower the individual on how much say you have in your practices, in your journey, in your training, in your reactions, in your attitude. Like, take responsibility for it. Really, it sounds a little scary, but once you get it, it's really empowering.
I'm literally on the same page with everything you've just said. I love listening to you. I get so inspired. I think it's something that we need, especially at this time when we all feel like we're in a bit of quicksand, with the whole quarantine and lockdown and trying to be safe and do what we need to do. So thank you for that, Bethanie. Can I just ask you, before we go to the Q&A section, if you look back and could have talked to a younger Bethanie, I know you've made great progressions and evolutions, but what would you go back and tell a young Bethany advice?
So actually, believe it or not, one of my mental sessions that I do go is 30. How old should I be right now? 30 years old? No, I'm 35. 35-year-old Bethany.
Looking
Going back.
25 though. But okay.
Thank you, thank you. I feel 25. 35-year-old Bethany going back and chatting with 7-year-old Bethany or 10-year-old Bethany. Like I've done this. I've done that exercise because in a real sense, you have your own back. Like you're going back and you're sort of giving this internal child, which we all kind of carry with us. Like 7-year-old Bethany comes out every once in a while. Let's be real. 14-year-old Bethany comes out. There's some situations where I had a certain loss that I reacted a certain way when I was 10-year-old, and that came out when I was 32. And so it's like, you know what? It's important to have the adult version of yourself. Go have a chat with your younger self. Like, what did your younger self really want in that moment? And in all honesty, it's usually really basic stuff. So this is why it circles back to how we started this conversation. They just want love, attention, affection. It's something really simple that they're frustrated with, or they didn't feel like they were getting. And 35-year-old Bethany goes back and like, but you're gonna be loved. You're awesome. Like, look at all these things you're gonna do. And it's a great emotional and mental exercise to kind of sit back, relax, and have conversations with yourself, because you're really doing a lot of personal diving into why you maybe have reactions that you don't want. For example, if you want you want to break your racket after a certain miss because it just really bothers you, you intellectually you shouldn't do that, but why is that reaction there? So these sessions, me going back and talking to my younger self, actually have really helped shift some of these habits really quickly. And I think the biggest thing that I would tell my younger self, or that I have told my younger self, is that everything works out. Like you're on this path, you're going to meet some amazing people. Yeah, sure, there's going to be tough times, but honestly, like, it's okay. Like I'm sure there'll be some challenges ahead of me from 35 to 50. Sure. And it's okay. Like, we're going to figure this out. Like, you have everything you need right now. Like, you have the ability to, what do you enjoy about this? Like, what do you want to do? And there's times where it's like, I just want to go have some ice cream. That's what 7-year-old Bethany wanted. She didn't want to talk about tennis. She wanted to go get ice cream. And it's like, it's really, I think it's a form of self-love. Like, you're really accepting yourself at all different moments in your life. Like, I don't think it's worth it to say like, hey, I had the wrong idea or the wrong opinion when I was 12 or when I was 17 or when I was 22, and now I'm so much better. No, you need it. You need all the stages. You need all the stages. You can accept them, and you can accept that you don't need any more any longer because you know something different now. But all stages are acceptable. And I think whenever I have conversations with my younger self, that's the main idea and emotion that I put across.
Beautiful. I am going to take the questions out, not from my head anymore, and I'm going to turn them over to the audience. Bethany, we have a few that, not a few, we have a ton that were sent in from anticipation of this webinar with you. So I'm going to ask you a couple of those, and then I'll turn it into the live chat here. But, here's the one. I'm not sure if you can do this now, but maybe something for you to think about. Randall is asking, is there any way you could share a workout playlist with us on Instagram?
Has he been following my Instagram workouts? Because I'm posting like a song here and there. Actually, I do. I have a Spotify playlist, and it's organized based on workouts. I have my chill mixes, my workout mix, and my bike list. So I'll share with everyone. I think it's under my name, Bethanie Mattek. Like, find me on Spotify.
Randall, that's a pretty solid answer there, buddy. I hope you enjoy that. Okay, here's an interesting one. Michael is sending in, if a player wants to pursue a career playing only professional doubles, what would you advise?
Say that one more time. If they're trying to pursue only doubles.
Yes. What would you advise?
What would I advise? I would definitely advise figuring out what sort of partner you're going to play the best with. And I talked a little bit before about chemistry and relationships. I think that's really important. That's really key. But I think it's also worth recognizing what style you play well with. For example, when Lucy and I played together, I was an animal at the net and she was my check wall at the baseline. We took advantage of her lefty serve a lot. So a lot of our plays, I would be set up at I formation at the net. She would be swinging the ball body or wide and set me up for a volley. So I think besides the relationship chemistry, it is worth thinking about what your strengths are. Like, what are your best positions on the court? Like, it's a little bit deeper than just who has a better forehand, who has a better backhand. Like, what parts of the court are your strongest ones? Like, for me, Lucy and I figured out when I was at net and she was in a down the line rally on the backhand side, on her backhand side, she's lefty. That was like one of our strongest positions because I had the forehand volley in the middle and she could just rally all day with anybody down the line. So when we played points, we'd figure out how to get in that position a lot of times. So I think it's worth going into a little bit more detail about who you are, like how you play doubles, and then figuring out who you would play best with, personality wise and game.
Very nice. This is an interesting one. I'm sure you've had to deal with this as a junior. I certainly know I did too. Grace is asking, how do you deal with adversity on the tennis court, most specifically when someone is cheating?
Yikes. I know. I haven't, luckily I haven't had to call my own lines or play anyone that's calling their own lines for a long time. I don't know. I've had some practice partners that have been a little shady, but that's okay. It's practice. You know what? It's an interesting question because, you know, so much of tennis is the performance result, the expectation. That's what we all put emphasis on. And when you're playing someone that is cheating, it's tough because it's out of your control. Maybe you know you're playing well, you know you hit that winner, it should have been game, and you didn't get it. So I think a lot of frustrations comes out of the fact that it's not fair and we really can't control it. And I would just really encourage everyone to take a personal responsibility. Like, you're there to get better. We all result, don't get me wrong. Like, I want to hold trophy, I want to win. It's what it's about. But you can't control that on the other side. You can control what you can control. Make your calls appropriate. Like, call if it's out, that's fine. If it's out, if it's in, call it in. And like, really, that's how you're going to get in better. That's how you're going to improve. Hopefully at some point, if everyone was thinking this way, we're going to have some amazing tennis with great line calls. There's times where stress, just think about it this way, stress also kind of brings the worst in people sometimes, which should learn. Actually, they should learn about how do I react when I'm under stress? And sometimes people really do see the ball in or out, like really see it, and you couldn't convince them otherwise. So I think rather than get too caught up in the call or what's happening over there, keep it focused on yourself. Like, you play the game how you want to play it. If somebody's really it's getting in the way, obviously, you can get hopefully you can get an umpire or someone to call from the side. And if you can't, maybe figure out a way. All right, what, I'm going to play way inside the lines today, and I'm just going to work on this for today because that's what I have control of. But and I really want to encourage players to not go that route. It's not, ultimately, you're not going to gain anything by calling close lines. Everybody knows, like, if ball's in, you call it, like, we all know. So it's not, I just think it's nothing to get too worked up about.
Always staying positive. That's Bethanie. Bethanie, I'm going to give you a couple more, and then I'm going to turn it over to you so the audience can have a little bit of a chance to do some live questions with you. I think this is an interesting one. Jeffrey, I am not mad at you. Jeffrey is asking, Bethanie, have you ever considered an acting career? If so, I will write a movie for you.
Oh, okay. You know what's funny is I actually have. No, I really enjoy being on TV. I enjoy.
You're great. You're great on camera. Yeah, you're great.
Like, I love it. And actually, I would love to be in a movie. I seriously would. In what capacity? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I need to take some acting lessons. I've taken some improv lessons. I feel like
Nice.
that's such an amazing skill to have, to be able to just sort of come out of the air with great comebacks and everything. So yes, to answer that question, it is on my mind. If you want to write a movie and we can win an Oscar, like, I'm in, like, done.
Okay, the last one I'm going to give you before I turn it over to you is Blake is asking you, is there a phrase that you repeat to yourself the most that helps you play your best?
A phrase that I repeat to myself the most. You know what? There are phrases that I do repeat to myself. I feel like they shift a little bit. It depends on where I'm at, what I'm working on, cues are happening to me. I call them cues. So for a certain time, like, let's just say on the serve, it's putting the toss in a certain position. Other times it was guns coming up together. I like little cues that are as simple as possible that get me the best result. I don't like a lot of coaching. I don't like big sentences, because I feel like once I start thinking a little bit too much like that, I'm losing the flow of my reactions on the court. So if I'm saying anything to myself, technically or strategically, it's usually pretty short. Usually I'm looking to see what's working that day, because it changes. One day my serve out wide, my kick serve could be working amazing against a certain player, and the next day, it's slice body. And so it's recognizing sort of in real time which cues you want to bring up. But in practice, I do have my cues for if I feel like I'm late on my split step, or if I need to prep earlier, and that's what I work on in practice. Once the match hits, technical cues almost go a little bit to the wayside. Like, you're really sticking to strategy. So a lot of it is just evaluating what's happening in real time.
Wonderful. Now listen, Bethany, I'm going to leave it to you to jump into the chat a little bit and dive in. I'm seeing a million questions being thrown in your way, so
All right.
I'll let you have at it for a few.
All right, let's see here. I'm just going from the bottom. Well, bottom of who have you had the most fun playing doubles with? I'm not gonna choose. That's like choosing a favorite child or pet. Like, you can't do that. I've really had a lot of fun with all my partners. I mean, I've probably given every single team a team name, whether they liked it or not. And to me, it's, I found some of my best friends with the players that I've played doubles with, whether it was with Mike, Brian, Bob, Brian, Jamie Murray. My first slam was with Horia Takao, who's still one of my really good friends, Lucy Safarova. I've been playing with Kenan. Last year at Wimbledon, I played with Danielle Collins. So I've really enjoyed getting to know a lot of people on the court. I honestly, a better question is the last partner I didn't have fun with, which is I don't remember, because I've had a lot of fun. So that's probably an easier answer. All right, let's hear. You're just a great person. So much fun to watch play. You're a true inspiration. Thanks, Clark. Sweetheart. Do I have any pre-match rituals? So I definitely have my warm-up routine, but honestly, if you hung out with me right before I went on a match, it's pretty calm. It's casual. I like to joke around with my team. It's to have a warm up and to physically feel good. But for me, I want to be in the best mental space possible. Sometimes that requires me being by myself, zoning and visualizing a little bit. But other times I want to be joking around with my coach or my hitting partner and making me laugh. Like, I think it's all a matter of how you feel, and I want to be in the best state of mind for my matches. So that's my pre-match ritual. How can I be laughing and enjoying and feeling good, nice and light? All right. What did you do? Travel around the, okay. Do you like traveling around the world? If so, what's your favorite place? Oof. Damn. Really? I love traveling, first of all. I think one of the coolest places I've been to is New Zealand. If you're making me pick favorites here, the whole country, I've spent a lot of time there. I actually was early this last off season, spent a couple weeks training there. I just think it's beautiful there. Food's amazing, scenery's amazing. The Kiwis love their adventure. adventure. So I love going there. But I mean, I love the big cities too. You know, Hong Kong was always a special place. Shopping there, the food was amazing. Been to Malaysia, Thailand, Paris. I mean, it's just, you get an experience, I feel like, in every city. But if I had to pick one place, I'm gonna go with New Zealand. All right, so let's see here. It is about self-learning. Alex, this is from you. Bad calls happen for the pros too. Accurate. It's not just it's not just your junior opponent making calls. Sometimes the refs do miss calls. I'll put that out there. Thank God we kind of have some challenges, but even then. All right, let's see here. Those sacred 2 minutes between sets during a match. What are 2 to 3 things you've learned over the years that have helped you the most to reset and stay focused and hungry to win? This is from Nate. I think that's actually a really good question, because I'm going to maybe answer this in a different way than most people, because my reset doesn't involve getting more serious or thinking about what I was doing. I need to take a moment in between sets to relax. A lot of times I'll have food. I'll focus on my breathing. But for me, and this is one of the reasons why I like playing doubles, is because you have a partner that you can joke around with. You can topics a little bit. So when you see me interacting with my doubles partner, my mixed partner, or my women's doubles partner, we are talking a little bit about strategy, but for the most part, we're just kind of rolling with what our emotions are. We're talking about dinner that night, and it's not a distraction. It's just it actually helps you stay more focused. You kind of like let some steam off, and then it's like, all right, what do we do in this point? Okay, you serve T, I'm gonna cross. Great. So I think there's definitely a balance. I think people tend to think they need to be so focused to win, and that's the only way. And I want to encourage sort of this more relaxed reset to then go into focus. You need a balance, guys. Balance. These are some good questions out here. Prakash, are you even still there? No, you're not. I just see your like frozen face, and it's a very judgmental face that I have on my screen. Let's see here. Bethany. Oh, this is Thomas Leach from Just to talk about your childhood, but can I ask you about your training program was like when you were 9 or 10 years old? Honestly, 9 or 10. So that was before I went to Everett Tennis Academy. So I was still up in Wisconsin when I was that age, and I was still going to school. I would practice a little bit before school and a little bit after school, but there was nothing too crazy. I was still on my middle school basketball teams, volleyball teams. So, in a sense, I was training because I was playing other sports, and I think that's such a great way to work on fitness when you're a kid, is to play other sports. Like it's still fun. It could be competitive. Soccer, you're working on footwork. Volleyball, it's teamwork. I mean, I was running track and field. So 9 and 10, it was really about having fun, playing a little bit of tennis, and then staying fit by playing other sports. All right. How fast do you adjust with your new doubles partners? I'm a junior tennis player, and a lot of times we have to play with the given partner at tournaments. All right. That's a pretty good question, because you look at the pros and you can see a lot of teams stick together and they play with the same partner for the whole year. And sometimes a lot of times in juniors, that's not possible. And I think that's okay. I think it's good to play with a bunch of different people. I think you start to figure out what personalities you mesh with. I think you work on your communication, because everyone has different styles. Some people roll on the court with more energy. Other people want to stay more calm. Other people get a little bit too low, and you just recognize where that balance is. But I think it's also beneficial to figure out what styles of play that you like to play with. And when you switch partners a lot, you get a chance. Like maybe you play with a baseliner one week, maybe you play with a lefty another week, then you play with someone who's serving volleys, then you play with someone who's super aggressive, and you play with someone who doesn't want to take any risk. Which ones do you like playing with? Which ones do you do well with? So I think switching partners actually is there's a lot of benefit to it. Obviously once you get to the pro and you find you find your guy or girl that you like playing with, like you keep up with it. But I think for juniors, like test out a lot of different styles. Have some fun with it. All right. Liking this. Okay. Okay, all right, here we go. Were you rebellious as a teenager, or were you driven and diligent about practicing and performing? Well, I feel like I've always been a little bit rebellious. So I don't think that really necessarily gets in the way of training and performing. I think as a teenager, I knew what I wanted. I knew what my goals were. So that helped me, if you want to, for lack of a better term, stay in line. And I did, if anything, I actually think as a teenager, I was too serious. I think I had to lighten up a little bit. I think I grew up sort of with this mentality, like if you had fun, you weren't going to be successful. And that's why I've transitioned a lot to the Bethanie, the tennis player that you see now in the court, where I can laugh and I can enjoy and still be competitive. So it took me kind of going through a few serious years of in my teens, especially my late teens, I would say early 20s, I was pretty serious. And then figuring out that really wasn't my personality. That was just something I kind of learned. And, maybe someone along the line told me that, it's, hey, if you don't, you got to be serious if you care. And if you want to be number one, that's all you got to think about. And I'm not, putting a lack of importance on focus. I'm just saying we can have fun with it. You can really enjoy some of those 3-hour practices. You can enjoy playing matches, competing, and still be all you could be. So good questions, guys. I'm liking this. Oh, we got like 37 new messages. Wow. Hold on. Gotta click. All right. How difficult is it to have close friendships with other women on the tour? You know what? I'm pretty outgoing. I'm pretty social, so I tend to talk to almost everybody. So I feel I've actually found some of my best friends on tour throughout the years. And, a lot of them have been my doubles partners. And, it's, I try to choose, I like to socialize. Like, I think I actually grew up, like I said, a little bit shy. So for me, building the relationships on the tour, like these girls know what I'm going through. Like they are there with me through thick and thin. They've all been through injuries. They've all been through wins and losses. So really, I found some of my best friends on tour. So it's like, to answer that question, it hasn't been difficult.
Bethany, I missed you, so I popped back on.
Oh yeah. I have to say, like, the face that you got frozen on was like this really judgmental face. It kept like creeping me out. Like I'm answering these questions and all I see is your face. Like
that's literally literally the last expression I'm gonna have looking at you.
I know. I was like, oh, okay. That's hilarious. We got some good questions.
Good guys. I saw Natalia Rodriguez has come in with a bunch, but I couldn't not notice it when I signed on. One of the things she said was she was just, this has been the most quality hour. Like, thank you so much for the inspiration. And I think that's absolutely what you've brought to the table. Just a couple more things I just wanted to ask before we wrap up. You've really kind of, especially in the last couple of years, really used the platform that you've, grown over all these years, especially on social media, to really kind of put yourself out there in like an honest, genuine way, and kind of bring all of what you told me you've kind of developed over these years to everyone else. Has that been a conscious decision? Is that something that, really means a lot to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm super active on social media. Like, I want to tell my story. If you follow me on social media, like, you're getting me. I haven't handed my password to anyone. Like, if I'm commenting, it's from me, because I want to have that connection with my fans, with my followers. I think, don't get me wrong, I love winning titles and I love standing on the podium holding my gold medal, but truly I get so much happiness out of the impact that I've had with my fans. Even while I was injured, like some of your emails and messages and letters, like I've read them and they help me get through some time. So you guys give me just as much energy as hopefully I'm giving you. And I think that's where, you know, this my tennis career goes a little outside myself a little bit. Like, again, tennis has given me a lot and I want to share it with you. I want to share the lessons I've learned. I want to share my approach. I want you guys to feel my energy, because that's what this is all about. Like, this is all, like, I live my life based on energy. The energy I want to give back is the energy I want to give out, and I want people to feel that way. So it's really, it has been a thought for me to go about my social media or my TV work, or even when I interact with fans in person after matches, signing autographs. Like, to me, it's meaningful. Like, I want you guys to feel like you're a part of the journey. I want you guys to get excited about following my results, and not just about my results. I want you guys to, like, I'll be open about my loss and how I feel. Like, this is more than just checking to see if your favorite player, you know, won or lost. Like, I want you guys to be on the journey with me. I hopefully you can pick up some tips and learn some things, but that's, you know, I've really made a conscious effort to sort of give my authentic self whenever I have the opportunity to.
Well, we've all been certainly fortunate enough to experience that, especially over all these years. Bethanie, what can we expect from the future for Bethanie Mattek-Sands?
The future. We need the ball here. Well, I'm not retiring yet, so
Yes.
no matter when tennis starts, if it takes till 2021, I will still be playing. I didn't feel like this is the end. I definitely feel like I have some singles left in me.
Nice.
I was playing some good matches at the end of last year.
Yep.
So definitely putting a focus on that, but I'll be playing some more doubles. Olympics is on for next year. That's a goal, but again, I'm going to be posting about my journey and how I'm working my way through this downtime and what I'm up to. And let's see where this goes. Let's see what opportunities come out of this. I think you know, there's a lot of silver lining in this moment, and I'm taking the same stance. I think there's a lot of things that I can improve on. There's new things I'm going to try. Look, I challenged myself to try a lot of. I'm learning Italian now.
Nice.
I'm not good at it, but I have my hitting partners from Italy, so I'm challenging me on the court. So that's the one thing you can look for when I have on-court coaching. When I go back to tour, it's going to be in Italian.
I love that. Now, the last question, maybe the most important of this 60 minutes. When we get back out there on the road, what are the chances of a Bethanie Prakash TikTok music 90s thing?
Okay.
You know?
Listen. You had me at 90s. Done.
Yes.
I was maybe gonna say no, but you said 90s. Let's do it.
We have enough witnesses here, so we're good. It's in the books.
90s.
Bethanie,
90s,
I cannot thank you enough. This has been such a great hour. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I get my blood flowing in the right way when, you know, we start talking positivity and energy. So thank you so much for taking the time, really.
Of course, yes. And thanks, other than your frozen face for a while. Like, I really enjoyed the interaction too. This is great. Had some great questions. So for everyone else, if you want more of this is pretty much what I post on my Instagram all day long. And yeah, let's keep this going. Keep the energy up, the positivity up, and the tennis tour will be back at some point. So we're good.
Thank you, Beth. We send our best to Justin too, and everyone back home.
Thanks. He's busy in the kitchen now cooking some dinner. So I got it good.
Enjoy. You deserve it. You gave us a wonderful one. And for everyone else out there who enjoyed this, just remember we have more All Access series coming up. We'll have Rajiv Ram coming up on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific. Don't miss our new UTR virtual events initiative as well, starting this week. We'll have Joey Johnson and Mikhail Torpegard, who will talk about why mindset development is so critical to improve performance results. That'll be on Friday. And we'll also have ITA CEO Tim Russell and a coaches discussion panel, which will be on Monday. Go to myutr.com to learn more about how we can bring free technology to your tennis world, your community, high school, club, and academy. Once again, thank you all so much for joining us. If you want to get at me, I'm at Prakash Amritraj on Instagram, Twitter, and of course, my UTR is on both as well. Have a great rest of the day. We'll see you guys soon.